Today we're starting KIDDUSHIN, DAF BAYT and Aleph. So the Mishnah says, a woman is acquired in three ways. We know that when the KIDDUSHIN happens, even though a get happens, Baal Karcha, a man's allowed to divorce his wife against her will, but KIDDUSHIN, the woman has to consent to the marriage. So she's acquired, but even so that she has to consent to it, the man is initiating, he is doing the complete acquisition. He's acquiring her, the woman doesn't do anything. A woman is acquired in three ways. She acquires herself in two ways. She's acquired with three kinyanim. Kasef, with money. It's Mishnah say money or the value of money. A star, which is written in the star, Aryai mukadeshes li b'star zu. And Rashi says even if the star is less, the piece of paper is worth less than a shava pruta, she'd still be able to be kenya. Ubabiyah, now with biyah, and the man would be required to say Aryai mukadeshes li b'biyah zu in order to be able to make a kiddushin then. Bekasef. Beishamai b'dinar u'b'shav b'dinar. Beishamai says the amount of money that's required to mekadosh lady with kasef is a dinar or anything of equal value of a dinar. Beisil says the amount is a pruta or the value, something else which equals the value of a pruta. The kamahi pruta, asked the Mishnah how much is a pruta. Echad mishmoina b'isser italki. It's 1/8 of the Italian isser. Now the Mishnah is only asking this in Beisil, it doesn't ask this in Beishamai. Taisa says either the reason is because a dinar was clear to everybody how much the value of a dinar was, or because since we pass like Beisil, so therefore the Mishnah felt the need to explain according to Beisil how much a pruta is, and not according to Beishamai. The koines atzma beget u'misas abal, and she acquires herself, or sort of comes into her own rishus. She's mutter to everybody else either with a get or with Mrs. Abal. There's a famous story, I believe it's said over through Shem Rivke, that there was a man who Rivke felt that he was supposed to divorce his wife, and he told her to divorce her, and he refused. So he said, the Mishnah says there's two ways a woman gets freed, either with a get or with Mrs. Abal. If you don't give a get, whatever. And the story goes that he walked out of the house and a tree fell down on him. That's the story with them. So the woman gets herself with get or Mrs. Abal. Hayavama niknas of biyah. A yavama is only acquired through biyah, right? Kasef and shtar will not work midiraisa by yavama. Although, if you remember from yavamas, there's such a thing called maimer, that it is a kinyan derabanan that allows a woman to be aser on the other brothers. If one yavam does maimer to the other brother, to this yavama, would aser her on the other brothers. The koines atzma b'chalitza of Mrs. Hayavam, and she's carved herself with chalitza. If one of the yavams do chalitza, or if the yavam dies, that refers to all the yavam. All her brother-in-laws would die, because otherwise each one would be able to do the same thing. And again, we learned that if you could get midrabanan, you can give a get to a yavama. That's not going to help deraisa. Now the Gemara is actually a little interesting Gemara. We'll see that the questions the Gemara is dealing with are very interesting. Not really the same surah of the Gemara that we usually find in different places. And the Rishonim says in the Yad David says that this Gemara till DAF Gimel Beis was not Ravina Rav Ashi. Ravina Rav Ashi didn't write this. This was added in later by the Rabbanan Savaroi, which is the next generation. So, because it adds very, very nitty-gritty questions with the diktuk and the lashon of the Mishnah, you don't find like the regular questions that the Gemara asks in the next two blot. Says the Gemara, Ha'isha niknes. Says the Isha is acquired. Ma'ishna hacha the tani ha'isha niknes, or ma'ishna hasan the tani ish mekadosh. How come in our Mishnah we use the lashon of Ha'isha niknes that she's acquired? And later on in Daf Mem Aleph, the Gemara uses lashon when it's referring to Kiddushin. It says ha'ish mekadosh. The man is mekadosh. That's the more familiar terminology that we know about of mekadosh. And it says the Gemara Mishum de Kabayla Misni Kasef. Since our Mishnah wanted to speak about Kasef, and Kasef, as the Gemara is about to say, is referred to as a kinyan, so therefore we use in our Mishnah lashon of kinyan. The Kasef minalan. Now this Gemara is really this Daf Gimel Beis starts with this question: how do you know kesef? That's the Gemara's question. How do you know kesef? But the Gemara is bringing it over here just to bring out the point that kesef is required to kinyan. The kesef minol, and how do you know kesef? Gomer kicha mistei efron. We have a gezer shav of kicha from stei efron to know that kesef could work. Ksiv hacha kiyikach ish isha, and by the parsha of Kiddushin, the pasuk says kiyikach ish isha, a man acquires a woman. Ksiv hasam nasati kesef asada kach mimeni. Take the money, I gave you the money for the field, and take it from me. The kicha ikar kinyan, and we find that kicha is referred to as a kinyan. The ksiv hasada asher kana Avram. We find that Avram bought the sada, he was kinyan, he acquired it. So therefore, you see that kinyan is the same lashon. Kesef is used in conjunction with kinyanim. So therefore, our Mishnah uses the kesef lashon of kinyan. Inami, we have another raya. Sadais v'kesef yiknu. The sadais are with money are acquired. So you see that money is referred to as kinyan. So therefore, we use lashon of kinyan. Ask the Gemara, Tani ha'isha niknes. They said ha'isha niknes. We refer to the woman. Now this v'nisni hasam ha'ish kaina. So how come over there in Daf Mamalef we aren't consistent? We should say over there kaina also, right? Use the same lashon of ha'ish kaina. And so the Gemara, Mikar Tani Lishna Deraisa, Lubsaif Tani Lishna Rabbanan. In our Mishnah, we use Lashon Deraisa, which we find to as Kinyan and Kicha are Lashonis of Deraisa. So therefore, we use that in our Mishnah. Whereas the next Mishnah, the Mishnah later on, sorry, the next Mishnah, but the Mishnah of Daf Aleph uses the Lashon of Derabanan. What is Lashon of Derabanan? The Asila Akuli Alma Kehekdesh. The Lashon Mukudeshes that we are familiar with is because since, like by Hekdesh, when you make something Hekdesh, it comes also to everybody else. So to a woman, when you marry her, you are answering her on the entire world. So therefore, we use the Lashon of Hekdesh. That's Mukudeshes. Ask the Gemara of Nisni Hacha Ha'ish Kaina. Why did we start off our Mishnah speaking about that the woman Ha'ish Kaina, Ha'ish Niknes? We should say in our Mishnah Ha'ish Kaina, speak of the man. And so the Gemara Mishnah the Kabbalah Misni Seifa V'Kainas Atzma B'Dida. Since the Seifa of the Mishnah is talking about herself, right? She acquires herself, or she receives herself with get or Mrs. Abal. So therefore, the Seifa, the Reisha of the Mishnah also spoke about her. As the Gemara Tananami Reisha B'Dida. So therefore, Tananami Reisha B'Dida. So therefore, the Reisha also discussed the case of her. V'nisni Ish Kaina Umakna. So why don't we just say that the man acquires and either bequeaths or he gives over? He's exactly what he's doing. So mishum de as mishum de ikom misas about the lav iu kamakni min shemayahu de makni la. Since the case in the Seifa is referring to a case of when the husband dies, and when the husband dies, he is not actually doing anything in the acquisition. He's not really transferring her rishus. He's not giving her anything. It's just min shemaya. It's passive. He dies and she automatically acquires herself. So therefore, we didn't want to say that the man is doing. He's not initiating anything in the kinyan. So therefore, we left it as lashon of her. The another answer of why we didn't say ha'ish kaina is because if it would have said lashon of kaina, hava mina fil bal karcha, it would have thought that even against her will, tana ha'isha niknes to midaita in shlei midaita loy. Therefore, we use the lashon of isha niknes that a woman acquires herself, which is mashma more that she has to give her consent. I mean, if it said ha'ish kaina, when you acquire something, you don't really ask permission of the object you're buying. So therefore, it says ha'ish kaina would imply that the woman would be acquired from the man regardless of her consent or not. So therefore, we use lashon of ha'ish niknes that she is acquired means that she has to give her consent in order to be able to get married. Ask the Gemara, my area the tani shalish. Now the Gemara gets busy with the next diak. Why do we, when he said the Mishnah, it says Ha'isha niknes b'shloishet drachim, it actually says b'shalish drachim, right? Ha'isha niknes b'shalish drachim, which is shalish is a feminine lashon. Shalish is a female. So how come we said so it's shalish lisni shloisha? It should say shloisha with this masculine terminology, which is the more this is the words which are more commonly used in Mishnayos when we list numbers. We should use shloisha. And so the Gemara Mishum the Kabbalah Misni derech. Since we want to say the word derech, shalish drachim, derech lashon nekevahu. Derech is lashon nekeva. The ksiv, as the pasuk says, "Vaydat lehem es haderech yelchu ba." You should teach them the ways of the yelchu ba, that they should go in the derech. It's talking about teaching Torah. You should teach them the Torah that they should go in its ways. So ba derech is the ways, and yelchu ba is the lashon nekeva. It's going on derech. So you see that is lashon nekeva. So that's why in our Mishnah, since we use lashon of derech, therefore we also used the feminine lashon of shalish.
Isn't shlosha nekeva?
Well, in numbers it's always the opposite. The hey, usually you're right. The hey always in words means nekeva, but in numbers it's the opposite. That's the trick that you have to remember. Numbers are the opposite. Yeah. We find in the Mishnah when it discusses, it discusses to BAYT the zav. A zav, if he has a re'iyas zav, if he sees zav comes out of his body. So therefore, the halacha is, as the Gemara is going to speak about later on, there are a man is only tamei zav if it comes out. I guess not ba'inus. I don't know what, not like that. I don't know what the other thing is, but if it comes out machmas adavar acher, means something else made it come out. Rashi says that if it came out with eating too much or drinking too much, or he was sick, he was carrying something heavy, he was jumping, he was looking at something, he was thinking about something. So all those reasons, if he saw zav, so then he would not become tamei. It only is tamei if it comes out for a different reason. So the Mishnah says there are 7 ways you check the person to see that it didn't come out because of an einus. So there it says he uses the lashon of shiva. Shiva is the masculine term. The shiva derachim, and you find use lashon of derachim also derech. So you see using it says the ways, and it uses the lashon zachar. It says b'shiva derachim neiseh Nisni Shiva, it should say Shiva, the feminine lashon, and it's the Gemara Mishum de Kabayla Misni Derech, since it wanted to say Derech. The Ashkan Derech, the Ikri lashon Zachar, and you find that Derech is also referred to as a lashon Zachar. The Ksiv, as the pasuk says, B'derech Echad Yotzu Elecha, in one direction, in one path, they will come to greet you, meaning the people that are coming out to war to fight you. So you see lashon of Echad. Echad is masculine, right? Feminine would be Achas. And in 7 ways they will run away from you. So 7 b'shiva, again, that's lashon zachar. So you see that derech is used in conjunction with lashon zachar. So Ihachis asks the Gemara, Kashu Krei Adadi, the Psukim are says to each other. One pasuk refers to derech as lashon nekeva. One pasuk refers to as derech lashon zachar. The Kashinami Masnisin Adadi, and the Mishnayos themselves are steer to each other. That the one's using zachar and one's using nekeva. And so the Gemara, Krei Adadi like Kashin, the Psukim are not contradicting each other. Hacha de b'Torah koi, since the first pasuk where it says Vaydat lehem es haderech yelchu ba, that is referring to Torah, v'Torah ikri lashon nekeva. Torah is referred to as a nekeva. The ksiv Torah is Hashem tamima meshivas nefesh. Torah is again, as you see over there, that's referred to as lashon nekeva. So therefore, kasav la lashon nekeva. So therefore, over there we use lashon nekeva. Hasam de melchama kai, since we are speaking about war. The darker shall ish lasis melchama. It's the way of the man to wage war. Vein darker shall ish lasis melchama. Women usually don't go out to war. Kasla lashon zachar. Therefore, it wrote a lashon zachar. Now, actually, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't look it up though. The Rashi in the beginning of where it says Yaakov went out, it brings all the different things are interchangeable. I think derech is one of the ways they're interchangeable. Derech is one of the words that could be used lashon zachar, lashon nekeva. I think machana is one of them. It says but lashon by Yaakov split the machanas. Machana is one of them. And shemesh is one of them. They're interchangeable words. They're not zachar, not nekeva. So therefore, depending on what it's being used for, will depend on what the terminology will use for it. Now, actually, this halacha that it's darker shel ish lasses mechama and darker shel ish lasses mechama is going to come up in actually this Shabbos, right? This Shabbos, we're learning Parashat Zachar this week.
Yeah. So
Parashat Zachar. So really, ladies are patur from Parashat Zachar because since ladies aren't usually go out to war, therefore they're patur from Parashat Zachar. A lot of people go to lane, they make minyanim. There are a lot of rabbanim that are not so happy that they're making minyanim because really they are really patur from Parashat Zachar. Ladies, I've heard a lot of people not be so concerned if ladies don't hear Parashat Zachar because really they are patur.
Don't they still have the mitzvah zecher?
You only have the zecher if you're bechal mechiyah. If you only have the mitzvah zechiyah, because the whole reason of remembering is in order to remember to kill them. If you're not mitzvah to kill them, then you're not mitzvah to remember. So it says the Gemara, Masnisan adadi loy kashin. Our Mishnayos are not to each other. Hachad l'gabi isha. In the case where we're spoken about a woman, koi katani lav lashon nekeva. Therefore, we use lashon of nekeva. Hasan l'gabi ish koi. the darker shall ish li badek, vein darker shall ish li badek. Since it's the derech of a man to check himself and not the derech of the woman to check himself, no ish now is mitama. Since a woman could become tamei even if she has a re'iyah and it was ba'inus. So therefore there would be no point in a woman checking. Whereas a man, there would be a reason for him to check to see if he comes tamei. So therefore, in that case, when it says b'shiva drachim BAYT kimas hazav, therefore use the lashon of lashon zachar. So Tani lashon zachar. Therefore, we use lashon zachar. As the Gemara, my time Tani shalish mishum drachim. So what was the reason we said lashon shalish, which was lashon nekeva mishum drachim? Because it says lashon drachim nisni devarim. Let the Mishnah say devarim. Don't use a lashon of drachim of paths or ways. Use devarim, things. Right? There's three things that can kind of a lady. And then you could be able to use your original word of shloisha. Since we want to discuss the case of bia, and bia ikri derech, we find that in conjunction with bia we use lashon of derech. T'ksiv derech gever ba'alma kein derech isha benafes. You find that with regard to bia we use lashon of derech. So therefore we want to use lashon derech for bia, and then once you use lashon derech, then you have to use lashon of shalish because it's talking about women. It's lashon nekeva. As the Gemara, that's very nice that you want to use it because of bia. But what about, there's two other cases in the Mishnah of shtar and kesef, right? Kesef and shtar. How come you're using that? Mishum bia. But ask the Gemara, are you going to use a lashon because of one of them? There's another two of them. Why would you go after the majority? The majority doesn't need it. And so the Gemara, Hanoch nami tzarech bia ninu. Kesef and shtar are also a requirement for bia. In order to have bia, you need kesef and shtar. So ultimately, you're getting to the same goal of bia. So therefore, bia would pertain to the other two. So therefore, you use lashon of drachim. Viva Yisema, another reason why we use lashon of derech in our Mishnah. We're going to bring down Reb Shimon. And Reb Shimon, we're going to find, as we're going to say in a second, he says that the way of the world is for derech. So therefore, our Mishnah wants to use that word also. Hamani Reb Shimon. So Reb Shimon, the Tanya, Reb Shimon Omer, V'pneima Omer Torah Kiyikach Ish Isha. Why did the pasuk in the Torah? Why did he use lashon Kiyikach Ish Isha? V'loy Ksiv Kisilakech. Kisilakach. That's they read it. Silakach. Why did he use Silakach? Which would imply that if it says ki yikach, as we discussed earlier, yikach is lashon that the man is acquiring, and he's not asking the consent of the woman. And silakach is mashma that she is giving her consent, at least in the acquisition process. So therefore, it would be better lashon in the pasuk to use ki silakach and not ki yikach, which would imply just that the man is completely doing the action. And just say ki silakach ish al ish. And so the Gemara is the way of the world that a man searches for a wife. And the way is not that the woman searches for a husband. If someone lost an object, who searches for the other? The person who lost it searches for the object. The object isn't searching for the man. So since HaKadosh Baruch Rashi says, since HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the Chava from one of the ribs of Adam, so women are constantly that lost Aveda that the man lost. So we are looking for the lost Aveda of the woman. So therefore, you see that the Torah used the lashon of derech. The Torah used the lashon of the way of the world, right? The ways in its terminology. So therefore, our Mishnah also uses derech because it associates with kiddushin. We want to imply the way of the world is, so we use lashon of derech. Ask the Gemara, why, since we just got done saying that derech, we use the lashon derech and not lashon of dvarim, right? Lashon davar, only by kedushin, because we were trying to imply that there's some sort of reason there, right? There's the ways of the world. So how come by a zav we use lashon of derachim? We should have again listening dvarim. We should have used again lashon of dvarim. And so the Gemara Hasam Hakamashmlon the darker the Michla Yiseir Lasuya Lidei Ziva, but darker the Mishnah Yiseir Lasuya Lidei Ziva. The way of the world, the way is that it happens that if you eat too much, it comes to Ziva, and if you eat too much, if you drink too much or you eat too much, then it will bring on Ziva. So that's that's the relation of derech by Zav also. Now we learned in the Mishnah Esrik Shavel Ilam Begimel Derachim. So again we see the lashon of Derachim over there. Listening to Dvarim. Why don't we use lashon of Dvarim there? We want to say that an esrog work is comparable to a vegetable in another way. This Mishnah is referring to that there are certain halachas pertaining to trees and certain halachas pertaining to vegetables. First of all, Lagabe arla, a tree has arla, vegetables don't have arla. Lagabe, let's say Lagabe picking them, right? There are different halachas. Not the Rabbi and Shvius. Shvius Lagabe, where I guess they're going to go, right? Well, not the Rabbi is arla also. That's all part of one package. But I guess that's what's maybe three. Okay. So therefore, so it says, the Seifa they want to say that's v'li'ark b'derech echad. As the Gemara Seifa nami nisni davar. So why did we in the Seifa also we should use of davar? Hasam hakam ashman the darker the eser ki yerek. The derech of the way is of a yerek. Ma yerek darker ligadol akol mayim. Just as a vegetable is required to water additionally, it doesn't survive just on rainwater alone. Ubishasli kitasai isurai, and the time that you pick it, that's when it's kaveh at what year it was picked in and what year what was the produce of which year as regard to trumas and maisus. So therefore, that's like a yerek. Af eser darker ligadol akol mayim. An esrog also is required to have additional water, and the year that you pick it, that's the year that it becomes chumas and maisis, as far as maiser sheni or maiser ani. That's what would happen. Whereas a tree goes basar chanata, goes basar the blooming of the tree. That's when you know what years of the product of what year. Okay.